I've often said that religion is not the problem, but it becomes problematic because it then complicates an already complex kind of situation. In the case of ISIS, there are really three different movements that are kind of coming together. And when we look at the trajectory of what's going to happen after ISIS ends, each of these movements, I think, will have a different trajectory. One is the one we've already talked about, the disaffected Sunni Arabs from the western part of Al-Anbar. They're not religious. They just want a piece of the cake. They just want some power. They are thrilled to be back in control in Mosul because these are former administrators, not allowed to be administrators under the post-Saddam.
I'm not sure how thrilled they are to be in Mosul at the moment, but anyway.
Yeah.
Things are bad in Mosul now. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
That's right. When they were in charge, it was great. Then there's this inner core, which really are religious in a weird kind of way. This apocalyptic cult, and it's a kind of a marginal cult that's at the margins of Wahhabi Islam, which is also already marginal to Sunni Islam. But they're this kind of weird, kooky little cult that thinks the end of the world is coming right away. I mean, like Tuesday, and they've got to establish the Islamic State and they get ready for the coming of the Mahdi, and everything's going to change. So you've got this inner cult, which is al-Baghdadi is part of, and that group would probably survive even without territory because it's just a wacky visionary cult. I mean, there are tons of wacky visionary cults around the world that usually don't rule large chunks of territory. And then the third are all this kind of global internet community, which I've been following, or rather my graduate assistants have been following, who can speak Arabic and can get online and can communicate with these people. They've been interacting with young people all over the world who are part of this network of young jihadis who've been attracted by the image of global war. This fantastic thing is, man, this is like computer games on steroids. We're actually going at this red, man. They're chopping off heads. Things are really coming down. Come and join, And often they're, apart from marginal communities, immigrant communities, where they feel kind of disconnected anyway. One kid was like 17 years old and says, my mother's trying to take away my computer and doesn't want me talking to all these people. He talks about this larger family of ISIS. He says, but man, it's not going to work. I can get around that. He says, because without them, I'm nothing. So I don't have a life. I don't have friends. This is the only community I have. I mean, this is tragic. This is poignant. If it weren't so lethal, because these are the kids then who are being recruited in droves as cannon fodder. I mean, they're literally being brought in to have suicide belts strapped around their belly and sent out in the front lines. Baghdadi needs them like anything. And they are brought in this romantic image of cosmic war. It's a very tragic situation, but that has its own life. It has its own kind of continuation. These are people who are conducting, driving trucks into Berlin Christmas malls and into the...
Yeah, I think from an American point of view, this is the most alarming thing about it. I mean, they're not gonna sail ships over and attack New York. I mean, the alarming thing is that...
And are they religious?
What's that?
Are they religious?
By they, you mean who?
No, this network, the people who are driving trucks into the Berlin Mall.
I assume they are, right? I assume that the people who are willing to die in the process of an attack believe that there is an afterlife, right?
I don't know. I mean, you have young people who volunteer for the military all the time who know they're going to be in a situation of peril. Possibly their lives are in danger.
But they most of them go over thinking there's a really good chance they're going to come back alive. I mean, whereas if you drive a truck, although the guy in Istanbul got away, but generally speaking, I mean, people who commit true suicide missions. I mean, generally speaking, I tend to minimize. Well, I think the role of religion in this is in some sense overrated, as I think you do, but I always grant people, look, if you didn't believe in an afterlife, you'd be less inclined to do a suicide mission. If you didn't believe you were going to be,
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's part of the equation. but I don't think it's all of the equation. And I think you're right in saying, yeah, religion is a factor, but it's a complicated factor. Because once you're swept up into the kind of a war situation, I've talked with a lot of people who've been, including in the American military in Afghanistan, but also people who have been swept up and been farmer jihadis. And it is it's exhilarating. I mean, there's a rush. There's a rush to being in this kind of we-they situation. It's the same kind of thrill that gets junior high school boys on the computer doing computer games, and they're all war games, by the way. You know, the World of Warcraft 3 or whatever it is. They're in imaginary wars, but how much even more thrilling to be in a real war.
You know, even on a smaller scale, just athletic events. I mean, you know, it's like, you know, being in sports, it's combat, and it's a sense that you're part of something larger. And those are fundamentally the things that I think are in play here.
And the event takes over. It just kind of takes, once you're in it, the event takes. So you may not go in there to die.
Right.
But you go in there because you know it's a potentially lethal situation. That's part of the rush. That's part of the thrill of it. And then once you're in the situation, buttressed by the notions of afterlife or certainly glory, you know, I listened to a lot of the last tapes of young Hamas suicide bombers, right? As they were, you know, the night before they are out to take their mission, they do this like kind of videotape will and testimony, which is then used as a recruiting device to other young people throughout Hamas. They're very interesting. So here are these young guys with a gun. Of course, they're not using a gun. The gun is prop because they're going to be in with a, you know, explosive belt around them. But they're kind of telling why they're doing, and it's all none of it is about the virgins, you know, and the afterlife. It's all about the glory and about the community and what they're doing for their family, what they're doing for the Palestinian society. And they've been totally in the sense that they were nobodies in a road to nowhere. And suddenly, whoa, we are at the center of the world, and the world's going to notice what we've done. What we're going to do. We're going to just blast our ways into eternity in a kind of performance sense as well as a spiritual sense. And I don't know which is more important to them, that sense of this extraordinary moment, this great event that they are going to be able to pull off, just the thinking about that, or thinking about what's going to happen after, and hoping, of course, they're going to have a life after life of some sort in heaven with all those virgins and all the other comforts of heavenly afterlife. I don't know.
Okay, so
but what they talk about is the glory, not the afterlife.